Laura, thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to be talking all about the perimenopause and your experience of HRT. But what I like to do before we kind of jump into the nitty gritty is to give a little bit of background to our friendship and how we first became friends. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know whether you have the same memory, but it was obviously at the school gate. That's where we saw each other dropping off our children. And I remember seeing you, and you were just this kind of ray of sunshine. You were really, really smiley. And I was like, she needs to be my friend. I need to have that at 8 o'clock in the morning, someone smiling and saying hello to me. And then I think I kind of stalked you for a little bit. And then eventually we got round to having a cup of coffee in a cafe, whenever. And it all took off from there, didn't it?
It absolutely did. I think, yeah, it's a funny one. It's all kind of a blur. I remember jumping straight into friendship. This is where my mind kind of works. Is like, there's something happened at the beginning, exactly like you say. We met at school, and then suddenly we are socializing when we can get 5 minutes.
Absolutely. And you've been such a support when it comes to getting these little series together and being honest and open. And I'm very grateful for you wanting to sit down today and to talk about your experiences. So we're going to jump straight in. Like I said, we're going to be talking about perimenopause and menopause. And I don't know a huge amount about it. So I've done a little bit of research, and my understanding is that perimenopause is kind of a transitional period. So you're still having your periods, but you're experiencing all these symptoms: low mood, anxiety, joint pain, hot flushes, reduced libido, night sweats. So all these different things, but you are still having your monthly cycle. And then the menopause, I think that's defined more as when you've had 12 months without your period. Is that something that I'm on the right page of?
I think so. I think what's so hard to actually interpret it is the lingo. Even things like HRT. I thought HRT was a one-stop shop for fixing menopause, perimenopause, I don't know what. But then, you talk to people, you hear people talking. Recently, I heard someone say that menopause was 24 hours. It's a one-day thing, which is basically when you've crossed over, if you like.
Yeah.
Then perimenopause is, like you say, a series of symptoms, which to me are very close to the monthly cycle anyway. And everyone who I now know is in perimenopause. So are we all just going through it together anyway? I'm very confused.
It is confusing, isn't it? So let's kind of rewind a little bit then. So you're going through perimenopause. It's a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're going through perimenopause now, but can you kind of give some background to how are you feeling before you realised that? Can you give a little bit of background about your day to day, whether that's kind of, family commitments, work commitments? What were you feeling emotionally, physically, and actually, really importantly, mentally as well?
I think originally the first symptom for me was the night sweats. And do you know what? I went through them for probably about 6 months, and I never twigged that it was perimenopause. I never thought that it could be, even though actually that's the one thing you hear about sweat. There's night sweats, the day sweats, the hot flushes. I never put the two and two together. I'm only 42, 43. All right, fine, 43. And, so you kind of don't expect it till maybe a bit later, but at the time you kind of just go with it and you're having your normal cycle. So I wasn't aware of anything, didn't think anything. And then other things were starting to happen, which was aches and pains. You'd wake up and something would hurt, or you'd, just a new muscle was hurting, or you couldn't do things. And it was just, this is actually ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous that your muscles literally almost go, that's it, we're done. And, you need them. It was the low mood that was the trigger.
Okay.
Because it was a real, I think I've said to you in the past, like the fire had gone out. Not bothered. You get up, you do day to day, but you just don't have that fire in your belly. And you don't have fire in your belly every day. We all know that kind of how things work. But once it's kind of gone out consistently, and I knew it wasn't depression. There was just something that says, I can't be bothered. There's a difference between that and depression. So that
Mm.
was the point. So I'd taken probably a year before I kind of thought, this isn't right.
So that's so interesting, because you just thought it was life, I imagine, with young children, and you run a really successful, demanding business, which we will talk about as well. But that in itself is physical. So I suppose it's so easy to just to brush the symptoms under the carpet. Like you said, hot flushes. The first thing people talk about when menopause is hot flushes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet you said you were experiencing those, and it didn't kind of twig to be like, actually, this is more. This is more than just, day-to-day life or the monthly cycle. It's something that's actually started to really kick in. By the sounds of it, had a really huge impact on you physically in terms of joint pain, and emotionally and mentally in terms of just not being bothered. So
Yeah.
so were you able to motivate yourself during those moments of just feeling of low mood?
I think because you have to, if you, whatever your situation, whether you've got kids or whether you've got work, you've got a team who need you, all these kind of bits and pieces, you have to just get up and get on and do.
Yeah.
It's that feeling that we want more in life. Like, I don't want to just get up and get on and do. I want
Yeah.
more. And I could probably go through a few weeks even just plodding along. But after some time, you think, this actually is boring. It's
Yeah.
frustrating. It's, so many things. But even those emotions weren't really there.
Yeah.
It's a really weird space to be. And it's a shame that we have to be in that. And it's a shame that I didn't spot the other symptoms. Would it have made a difference? Would I have, gone to seek help before that, or opened conversations before that? I don't know, but, it is what it is. And now I was at that point where I said, emotionally, this is not where I want to be.
And did you talk to your husband? Was this something that he noticed, or were you just trying to push on through and think, no, I don't need to have this conversation with anyone?
I think, generally speaking, as a person, I in the past haven't talked to people. I just was quite insular about my own emotions. But over time, with friendships like yourself, you're kind of just naturally encouraged to talk. And if somebody else that you trust is talking, then you naturally respond. And, as I grew up and matured, I kind of learned to open up. And so it wasn't with the husband per se, because I didn't necessarily know what I was talking about. I might say, I feel a bit today. But when you talk to your friends who go, I'm feeling this way, or I'm doing this, or I'm going through that, and I've gone on HRT, or you're like, and so it's that, oh my God, me too. And, that's when it kind of, the conversation's open.
And that's amazing, because I think it sums up exactly what I'm trying to do with these conversations, is that having spoken to people like yourself, where we have just opened up to each other, we've all got stuff going on. And as much as we try and live with those feelings or those emotions, or fight through them or ignore them, whatever it is, the likelihood is that there's someone within your kind of immediate friendship group who's going through something very, very similar. And the only way to kind of get through it sometimes is to talk about it and know what the next step is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that knowledge, and everybody's brains work differently. Some people are super on it with their cycle, and they'd have spotted it a long time ago. They might not have known how to deal with it. Other people, a bit like me, I'm kind of a bit blasé, don't really focus. I probably, if I did, would have gone, what the heck are these night sweats? 6 months consistently. There wasn't a break on a night. And you go, that's not right. Whereas I'm like, yeah, whatever. So
It's funny.
it is one of those situations where you don't know what you don't know. And so those conversations are so important, because suddenly the brain goes, hold on, we need to stop and talk about this.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And so you got to that stage where you realised things clearly weren't right, and you needed kind of some extra help. So I imagine the first place you went to was a doctor. Is that how you worked it out? Where did you go to realise I need some support with this?
Yeah, so there was a combination. I think we talked a bit, and also I went to the doctor because I also said that my mood was low, but I was very tired. Obviously, they say things about your lifestyle, your work, all these kind of things, and when you've got young kids and you work a job where you own the company and you've got the farm and all these kind of factors, they're probably thinking more towards that level. But equally, they look at me as a 43-year-old woman and say, well, hold on, actually, the menopause, the perimenopause is a conversation that's happening more and more. So they're more alert.
What was the next step after that? Did they offer alternatives? Was it straight down the HRT route? What was the conversation going forward about how they were going to support you?
So the first thing that happened was a blood test. And obviously over the years, we've all had plenty of blood tests. They test things like your thyroid and everything. In mine is always, I'm very lucky, everything has always been very normal. But they did test the hormones. And this is where it does go a bit over my head. Is it the FSH levels or something? And they know that if that is elevated or drops one way or the other, that it is a signal that you are in perimenopause or early menopause. And that's what, I mean, this is where it gets quite convoluted, because they say early menopause. You're like, but if the menopause is a day thing, how is this early menopause? Like, it just becomes very convoluted. So in your own mind, you're just trying to figure out something's changing. Okay, something's changing. That's probably all we need to know. 6 weeks later, I had another test. And it was back to normal, but I felt normal. And they did say, look, it could be, it might not be, but the kind of indicators would suggest that you are going into early menopause, because it is still technically early for my age. So they said, you've got a decision, like you can go on HRT. Again, I thought HRT was one thing, like a pill you take and all is better. It's just so vague, but
how interesting.
It's hormone replacement therapy. There are presumably a few options. And obviously, after talking to other people, I went for the gel to rub onto your legs for absorption, because it was likely that the estrogen was dropping. That's the dangerous one, that if it drops off, you're more at risk of many things. So I started on that. And I said, you know what? I don't want to wait around. There's clear indicators. There are signs now. Now I'm looking into the past, to the hot flushes, my muscles giving up the ghost, and all these things. I said, let's just get on with it and see if it improve that mood as well, because I can't carry on being uninspired in life.
I think that's it. It sums up, isn't it? I think when there is an alternative, and that's whether someone finds out through a natural therapy or whether that is through some kind of medication, then it gets to a point where you don't want to carry on living in the current state, do you? There's got to be a change. And actually, I just want to go back and kind of about HRT, because I think it's a word that is just thrown around. And I've looked up the definition. I'm going to just read it to you now. So I got this from the NHS. So HRT is hormone replacement therapy, and it's a treatment used to help menopause symptoms. It replaces the hormones estrogen and progesterone, which fall to low levels as you approach the menopause. The loss of these hormones can have a big impact on your body. So that's obviously exactly what you were going through, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But just touching on HRT, I think if you Google pros and cons of HRT, you are inundated with do it, don't do it. And I think that in itself is an absolute minefield, because like with any medication, there are risks, and some of which are being that there is a risk of breast cancer, stroke, and blood clots. And also people choose not to use medication because they think they'll get through the menopause by just getting through them. So did any of those risk factors ever put you off wanting to go on HRT?
Yes. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but if you take ibuprofen, or if you take paracetamol, or if you go and get antibiotics from the doctors, I just take them. I never ever read the instructions, because I trust that the doctor. Probably shouldn't admit this, but the doctor has said this is okay to take. With this, I read it, and when it said risk of stroke and things like that, you're just like, okay, I'm not quite so keen now. Is this right for me? What if? Because again, another feeling of being in your 40s is that you're no longer invincible. You were in your 20s technically, but you're less, you feel less confident now. And so when someone says stroke, I've heard about people in their 40s having a stroke. I'm closer to those risks now. And I just, I was worried. I can't actually remember the turning point. This is another thing, memory loss. I can't remember the point where I just said, it's probably a conversation we had, that it was just like, look, let's just do it and see.
Yeah.
You know, you'll pretty much know. And I was, when I first started taking it, I was super conscious, and I'm not generally an anxious person on that front, but I noticed a few headaches, but they could have just been coincidental. I'm thinking, is that a pain in my leg? You know, thinking all that, you know, you get a
Yeah,
bit paranoid.
exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, definitely more astute to those risks with this than any other drugs. You know, ibuprofen, everything else, like I said.
And it's weighing up how you feel currently to how you potentially could feel as well, isn't it? And I think, like you've alluded to, you were feeling so low that there had to be something to get you out of that. You needed to move forward in some way, and maybe it was just a case of trying it, giving it a few months, and seeing what would happen.
Absolutely. And I generally live a healthy, you know, day-to-day fairly active lifestyle, unless I'm just in the office. But you know, I'll be outside and in and out and moving around probably more than I was if I just had a desk job.
Mm-hmm.
I was forced to sit down. So I kind of thought, just keep moving, just carry on doing everything that I am, because you know, looking at all my history, is that, you know, blood tests always come back good, everything else is positive, so let's
Yep.
focus on that.
Yep.
And you know, hope for the best.
Hope for the best. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. One way of putting it. And so, how long have you been on HRT for now?
Ooh, good question. It'll be 3 months.
Okay. And
Yes.
have you noticed an immediate difference, or do you think it's more of a gradual process?
I think a bit of both. I think you notice an immediate difference in that I don't feel quite so low mood, so despondent, but gradually improving as well. I think we had the conversation at one point where I was a month in and saying, oh, do you know what? I'm just not sure it's enough. So maybe I should just double my dose. At which point your wise words were, I think maybe just go with the actual prescription.
Don't
And
overdose. Don't overdose.
so then I
Yeah.
got cocky and, you know, was thinking I could double it up, but, you know, wise words were said.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just stuck with that. And I think, you know, in hindsight now, I feel a lot different to how I did. I don't feel like I want to, you know, walk up mountains and, you know, sing from the rooftops kind of thing. But it's taken away that gloomy feel.
I must say, from a personal point of view, I do remember vividly sitting down and talking to you about how you were feeling, pre kind of going to the doctor, and you did say, I'm just feeling low. I can't be bothered. And we love our walks. You know, we're the ones that get up in the morning and going for a walk. And you're like, I can't be bothered. I really, really can't be bothered. I remember coming away and being just a little bit worried. You hate seeing your friends struggling, and when you know that life can be so demanding, when you know that they're putting on sometimes just a brave face, they're actually behind the scenes. They need a little bit more. And I think maybe because wine's been involved in a lot of our catch up since, but you seem happier, and you seem back to the Laura that I first met on that school run.
Yeah.
More kind of embracing life and positive. So I don't know whether you're feeling it yourself, but you're very much giving that impression that things are coming back on track. And it's not an immediate thing, clearly, things do take time, but the hormones are being rebalanced and you're getting your old self back.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, yes, it's not fixed anything fully, but maybe that's not just the hormone itself. Maybe it's not just the estrogen gel itself. Maybe it's a bit more than that. I'm not sure. And it's a complex thing. The thing that I'm struggling with at the moment is the exercise. Okay, right, let's do couch to 5K, or let's go on my morning walks. I love my morning walks with the dog in the dark, head torch, and she's got her little collar on, and I still can't be bothered because I know I won't commit. I might do it tomorrow morning and that'll be it. And that commitment of going, but do you know what? I'm not putting too much pressure on myself, because I feel that overall things are better, and I am doing other things in my life that make me feel like I'm still achieving in some way, shape, or form. So you've got to give yourself a break. You can't do it all. And I'm a believer in timing. When the time is right, I will pick up that stick and go for a walk, so to speak.
Yeah. I think that is such an important thing to say, isn't it? I think we put so much pressure on ourselves. You know, the countless times that I've said to you, I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that, or I haven't done this well. And I think a lot of it's when I'm complaining about how I've responded to the children, or, you know, lost my temper yet again. And it's kind of like, we are human, aren't we? And things are going to get muddled, and, you know, they're not going to work out as we hoped they'd worked out. But if we just keep doing our best, then we can't really ask for any more, can we?
No, absolutely. And I think life does get more hectic and we do put more pressure on ourselves. And as we get older, we kind of almost put more pressure on ourselves to do more, to take on more, you know. And I think that expectation is totally unrealistic. But, you know, you're kind of conflicted because you get a kick out of achieving things or doing things well, but you kind of can't do it all. So, yeah, 100% we need to give ourselves a bit of a break and say, do you know what? It's that thing, I'm kind of doing that, almost entering that reflective phase of thinking, now I need to start writing a list of what have I actually achieved, because it's so easy to pull yourself to pieces and say, you know, exactly like I say with the kids, I'm always on at the kids. It's like, well, why don't you flip that and say, what have I done with the kids that they love and that I love and that we did together? And I bet there's a great big list there, and you know that's important too.
It is just thinking about the positives and not dwelling on the negatives, isn't it? Which is easy to do. Talking about commitments, I want to talk about just your work briefly. So can you tell us about what you do? Because you mentioned farm, but there's a lot more to it than it being a farm. So what is it that you do?
So we run a farm diversification business, which is called Farmer Venture. It started from an idea from the husband. He's a farmer through and through, and he came up with this idea about team building activities for adults, where it's on the farm. No one else in the country at the time did anything like this. And it was things like sheep gathering, tractor racing, pig herding. So getting stuck in, a bit of welly wanging, good old school sports, you know, all these fun things where people could actually have a go on the farm and interactive. And I got on board with this and I was like, this is absolutely brilliant, because I'm not from the farming world. I'm from kind of rural, but not the farming world. And I was like, this is brilliant. I've always wanted to drive a tractor, love being with animals, love being outdoors. So many people are going to resonate with this. So we built it together and started in Yorkshire on the working farm that we have. So we're a beef farm. So that's still going on the side as well. And then we expanded to Shropshire back in 2019, and have a kind of micro site there, if you like, do the same activities there. So we're just appealing to stags, hens, corporates, any group of grown-ups who want to get together. You know, I say, you know, with your friends, you want to do something other than just the drinking. You feel like you earned that glass of wine, bottle of beer at the end of the day. It's like, come and race some tractors. You know, what more could you want?
Exactly. And herding pigs, you know, it must be easier than herding children. So I'm all over it.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing, like organising a hen do is like every group is like, the organisers like, it's like herding cats. You're like, well, you'll be well trained because pigs are slightly easier.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to put a link to your website in the show notes, because it really is fantastic. Whenever I speak to you after a weekend, you've been like, yeah, I've been flipping burgers, driving tractors, herding pigs, throwing wellies, and it just sounds, although it is obviously a lot of hard work, it just sounds like a lot of fun as well. So yeah, just alluding to obviously that the physicality of running one of those events, you know, organising one of them with your children running around, you know, that all plays into, doesn't it? Just the stage where we're at, where we're trying to do everything and we're trying to do it well, but we can't. And so things have to give. And for those people who do feel like suffering or going through a lot of kind of bodily change, knowing that there is either, you know, natural therapy out there or HRT, it's a bit of a lifeline, I think, isn't it? And I just kind of want to end with, where do you go for support? Because when you Google menopause, or when you hear about it, there are some great role models out there. You know, Davina McCall is talking about it, and I was listening to Zoe Ball the other day, and she's like, "Oh, I've got menopause brain fog," and it's becoming a lot more day to day. But Are those places, are the public figures, are they the people that you go to for inspiration and support, or where do you go to feel that what you're going through is normal and okay?
Yeah. I think it's important to know who you are as a person, like, and who you resonate with, because personally, if I see someone and I think, oh yeah, I feel that way, but then they go off on a tangent of their life and what they're experiencing, I think, oh no, that's not it at all, or I feel like I don't really connect with them. Obviously, we're talking, celebrity, it's not a mutual thing, but I don't resonate with them. You can lose them and dismiss it. So I look more to friends like yourself where we can have a chat and
Mm.
I can tell my story and you can almost assure me, and it's not a one-way thing. So
Mm.
celebrity is not really that thing. There's some amazing people out there, like you say, who've done it, but I personally don't necessarily follow them because they are a certain way of them. I haven't found that person who's kind of quite close to me and who I
Mm.
am.
Yeah, no, I think it can work both ways, can't it? One, about making it a kind of a conversation that everyone can kind of hear about. But like you say, when you need that reassurance or that honesty, kind of that safe space where you can say, do you know what, I'm feeling like this today. You know that it's okay, and it's not someone who has used the filter and are living a very, very different life to what you are living. Well, we're going to keep on talking over cups of tea and glasses of wine and dog walks. I'll come and join you for an early morning dog walk. We'll be there with our head torches together.
Absolutely. If you see two lights in the dark, then you'll know it's us.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you so much, Laura, for coming on today. And like I said at the beginning, you've been so supportive of, one, me doing this, and two, you coming and just talking about your experience. It's very humbling, and I'm very grateful for it as well.
You're very welcome.